Mangione dropped. Yeah, definitely woo. You're wooing for justice, right?
So Saturday Night Live was working this weekend. That surprised me, and I watched that too, and my jaw dropped several times. And welcome to Christmas Eve on the Chris Plant Show. Mike Opelka, that's me sitting in for my buddy Chris Plant. Thank you for being here. I hope you are not in the panic state that many are in as Christmas and Hanukkah, which both arrived together, Christmaka, on Wednesday. They are essentially upon us. But there are many important issues with which to deal today, and we will try and get to all of them since this show wrapped up on Friday. There was a lot going on in the nation's capital, and they got it done as anticipated. At the 11th hour, as my mother would say, they all ran away. Yes, they waited till the 11th hour, got their little stopgap, continuing resolution, shutdown averted, all that stuff. And then everybody left town. Everybody except Joe Biden, who came back to sign whatever bill was there. And then commute sentences, which he did this morning. We'll get into that. Controversial, maybe. Is it allowed? Yes, of course. 37 of the 40 people who were sitting on death row in federal prisons had their punishments flipped from the lethal injection department to the life imprisonment, just weeks ahead of Donald Trump's arrival in D.C. 4 weeks today, 28 days today, if you're keeping track. And maybe we're going to have, I know someone said, don't say this, because I tested out this line last night. They said it was sacrilege to say that we're going to have an inauguration sort of advent calendar with 28 days until Donald Trump is sworn in. And if you watched Mr. Trump's speech this weekend at the Turning Point event, and why wouldn't you? It's out there for consumption. If you were busy yesterday, it's certainly available, all 1 hour and 18 minutes. What does that work out to? 78 minutes of Donald Trump speechifying before 20,000 people gathered at Charlie Kirk's party out in Arizona. Very, very nice event, a very, very energetic event. Tom Homan was particularly electric with the crowd. Matt Gaetz had everybody in stitches and on the edges of their seats. And Rob Schneider, speaking of Saturday Night Live, a guy who probably will not be invited to the 50th anniversary party or any of the 50th anniversary episodes for the next season, he was there. And he was really letting the Democrats have it. Now, it's kind of fun to watch, isn't it? It is. We should have fun over the holidays, shouldn't we? Of course we should. We need to release a little bit of the tension. And Schneider was doing that. He came out in front of the Turning Point audience, and he gave a little bit of a class to all of the Democrats who might be listening on why they lost so badly on November 5th.
Democrats, you lost because you tried to convince the American people that it was racist-y to close the border and not let people come in illegally to rob and murder them. You lost because nobody gives a f*** about the term Latinx.
I believe that's pronounced Latinx here on the Chris Plant Show. Just correcting you, Rob Schneider, but he had more.
You lost because your Justice Department called parents who showed up at school board meetings terrorists just for not wanting pornography in their children's classrooms.
Imagine that. Imagine that. You called them terrorists because you didn't want porn in the classrooms. Yeah, that actually happened. But wait, there's more.
You lost, Democrats, you lost because you lied about January 6th, calling it worse than Pearl Harbor or 9/11, instead of what January 6th really was, the FBI guided tour of the Capitol building.
That's actually pretty good. That one surprised me. Most of the Rob Schneider stuff borders on just kind of smiling political commentary for me. I actually laughed at that one. That was right. That was the FBI guided tours of the Capitol for the people now charged with parading and worse.
You lost, Democrats, because men can't have babies, women don't have dicks, even if they play in the WNBA. And free speech isn't a privilege like a driver's license. It's a God-given right guaranteed by our Constitution.
Just one of the great speakers, including Donald Trump, at the Turning Point event this weekend, Rob Schneider, and he formerly of SNL. As I said, he's on the persona non grata list now for Saturday Night Live. We have many, many things to cover today in the news. You're welcome to join us as well anytime. 888-630-9625 is the number here on the Chris Plante Show. One of the things that I guess is the biggest story this morning is the fact that Joe Biden has once again wielded the power of the pardon and announced that he was going to commute the sentences of 37, as I said, of the 40 people currently on death row. This started buzzing around yesterday, that Biden was going to pardon all of the people that were on federal death row. And that was 40 people, and folks started saying, hold on a second here. There's some pretty bad folks in here. You got Dylan Roof, the guy who shot up the Mother Emanuel Church in Charleston, South Carolina in 2015. You have that dreamboat, as the far left likes to consider Joker Tsarnaev, the terrorist who bombed the Boston Marathon in 2013. You have him, who was on that list. Robert Bowers, the guy who shot 11 congregants at the Tree of Life Synagogue in 2018, the deadliest anti-Semitic attack in American history. Those three, a lot of people were worried about them among the others. Among the others. Those three were not given a commutation. And interesting, and it should be noted, this is kind of a fascinating twist on all this. It should be noted that those three cases kind of sweep broadly across all of the interests in Washington, D.C., starting with the Mother Emanuel Church shooting in South Carolina. So, of course, you've got the predominantly a black congregation, which will cover a lot of the Democrats' base that is there. Then you have Boston, very important, although I think a terrorist bombing in any American city hits every demographic. But I'm certainly glad they did not, that Joe Biden did. I said they because is it really Biden doing it? I mean, we all read the Wall Street Journal coverage. Is it really Biden? I don't think so. So they, the Biden team, commuted all the other sentences, 37 people, but left out the killer at the Mother Emanuel Church, the bomber at the Boston Marathon, and the anti-Semitic shooter at Pittsburgh's Tree of Life Synagogue in 2018. And some could say I'm being cynical in my analysis of this. But you know that Democrats always look to get something out of every action they do. Is there a political benefit to this? Is there some sort of capital, political capital, that can be minted by taking these actions? Now, I know there had been stories that the Pope and the Vatican had been reaching out to Joe Biden ahead of his last few weeks as the president, and maybe this was part of the appeal to eliminate anyone who's on death row in federal prisons. I'm one of those people who supports the death penalty, especially for folks like this. And for people that rape and go after children. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with you, the taxpayer, and me, the taxpayer, not funding 3 square meals a day, cable, and God knows what else people who are sitting on death row are getting. And endless appeals. I know. It didn't take long, though, for the support to come out for Joe Biden on this. Did not take long at all. In fact, Derek Johnson, the head of the NAACP, was immediately found by MSNBC, what a surprise, and put on camera and asked about these commutations and what he thought of them.
Well, we commend the president for this extraordinary act. The clemency and pardon powers of the president is unmatched. And it's good to see that he's using the moral authority of his faith to do what's right. You think about those who are on death row. Over 55% of those individuals are people of color, African Americans and Latinos and others. And
now, I understand what he's trying to say here, but I also understand him because I think I've monitored enough of Sharpton's on-air television to understand his speech. Can we just get people that are leading national organizations to speak English? It's death row, not death row. I'm sorry, Mr. President, but if you're the guy who's in charge of this massive organization, a little maybe work on the... And someone's going to say, how dare you? He's just speaking in the parlance of the people. No, you want your leaders to speak correctly and as clearly as possible. Death row. No. I should let NAACP President Johnson continue.
Over 55% of those individuals are people of color, African Americans and Latinos and others. In fact, for every 8 people who are killed, 1 person later is found to be exonerated. So we are encouraging the president.
I heard it too. I know. It's exonerated. I'm just letting that one go.
Continue on this moral path to ensure that the disparities that we see in the system that has been proven is addressed through the clemency process. There are individuals that should be pardoned. They are productive citizens. And this is the type of legacy that we will want to see any president go out on.
Wait, did he just say that people on death row are productive citizens? Did I miss a memo? Are the 40 people, well, today, a lot of them, 37 of them, just got their sentences commuted. I'm sure they're working the paperwork out, and they're going to be sent out and back into the community. Did he say they are productive citizens? I think I missed something there. Let me go back just a little bit.
To ensure that the disparities that we see in the system that has been proven is addressed through the clemency process. There are individuals that should be pardoned. They are productive citizens.
Yeah, he said they're individuals who should be pardoned. They are productive citizens. No, you're not. You're not a productive citizen. If you have been found to be guilty of murdering someone and you have received the death sentence, a really good chance. I know they're fond of quoting the stat that says 1 out of 8 who've been executed have been found to be not guilty. I think we've gone through, especially with DNA and all of the testing we have now, to make sure that we don't make mistakes like that anymore. So, yeah, they're not productive members of society. They're convicted murderers. And when they were convicted, I know we could have this argument about the death penalty back and forth, and you're welcome to share your thoughts. Of course, 888-630-9625. It's Christmas week, though, so we gave all these bad people a commutation. And now we're going to have to pay for them to be in a cell for the rest of their lives and give them dental care, a library, cable TV, God knows what else. Gonna try and find the Christmas spirit. It's Mike Opelka in for Chris Plant on the Chris Plant Show.
Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at washingtontimes.com/Chris.
Happy Christmas week. Happy Hanukkah week. Hanukkah starts Wednesday. Yes, I know. It's Mike Opelka in for Chris Plant on the Chris Plant Show. So much to get to today. My God, there's a buffet of great stuff about which to speak. And the least of which will not involve Donald John Trump, because he has the lion's share of the buffet of stories today. And you, of course, the fabulous listeners. Jasmine is on the phones at 888-630-9625. Let's take a call early because I'm in the Christmas spirit. Victor in Silver Spring, Maryland. Hello, Victor. Merry Christmas.
And Merry Christmas to you and everybody else out there. I'm recovering from back surgery. I'm still in pain, but I managed to plug along. I heard the Trump speech yesterday, and did I hear right that he wants to take back the Panama Canal? If that's true, I love it, and I hope he does it.
Yeah, there's a lot of, as the Australians would say, controversy about this. The left are losing their mind over it. Donald Trump has said for a couple of days now that if the Panama Canal is no longer in control of the Panamanians and the Panamanian government, that he wants it back in the hands of the United States. And there's some really interesting things happening because Panama has come out and said, no, it's going to stay in the control of the Panamanians. Apparently there is a Trump hotel, a Trump property in Panama that had the letters Trump hammered off of it following that. And a lot of people will say, yeah, let's get the Panama Canal back. Look, Jimmy Carter gave the Panama Canal, sold it for $1 to Panama. And I understand what Mr. Trump is saying, that if suddenly China has weaseled its way in and will be controlling the canal and therefore be the beneficiary of all of the money generated in the tolls that, ships going through the canal, that's a wrong thing, that's a bad thing. I don't think Mr. Trump is, and this is a personal opinion, you guys can agree or disagree, I think this is leverage, negotiation. The same way Donald Trump said, hey, Canada would be a great 51st state. And then suddenly, and without warning, the prime minister gets on a plane, the equivalent of Canada's Air Force One, and flies down to Mar-a-Lago because he knew that he was in trouble. I think this may be negotiations. And let's remember, Panama has a key link with people coming north into our country. As interesting as it sounds, I'm just playing this game all the way out. I think this is Donald Trump getting everyone's attention. So it sounds like fun, Victor, but I'm more interested in the other thing that Donald Trump said in terms of acquisitions. Let's remember, he's a developer. He's a deal maker. He's talking about Greenland again. So Canada, 51st state, Greenland, 52nd, Panama Canal back under American control. A lot to talk about. It's Mike Opelka in for Chris Plant on The Chris Plant Show. Chris Plant Show, Mike Opelka, that's me sitting in for my friend. And yes, he is my friend Chris Plant on his show. It is the Monday before Christmas, so technically Christmas Eve, and many, many things to get to. I hope you're not in a panic. I'm not completely finished, but I'm not panicked because no matter what I do, I can always sort of offload the blame to the Amazon strike, right? I think that's okay. I can say, yes, honey, it was supposed to be here, but that pesky Amazon strike, it's held up everything. It's really just mucking things up. I can blame Jeff Bezos. That would be fun. If you haven't used that excuse, it's usually pretty good. But this year it's especially valid. We talked earlier about the commutations, Joe Biden commuting 37 death sentences of people on death row in federal prisons, and the arguments are going to go back and forth all day long. I've already told you how I feel about it. I wonder how much we spend per year. That number's got to be out there somewhere. In federal prisons, when you're on death row, what is the annual cost to the taxpayer? And I know that's rude to say, isn't it? Well, no, because we look at every cost. We look at every single cost these days, especially when you're $36+ trillion in debt, you have to look at every penny and find every penny we can save to stop the bleeding. And I can't wait for Doge to get here. Speaking of Doge and Elon Musk, I was going over some of the reactions to Elon Musk, and we know the left is just losing its collective mind over the fact that Elon Musk has so much focus that he can bring to any issue because, let's face it, when you're the richest guy in the world, people want to pay attention to you and figure out, how did he get there? And can I do that? And so he's got a lot of attention. And now he's got Donald Trump's ear. And the left is furious with Elon Musk and everything he's doing. And I'm old enough to remember when they thought he was not just a bad guy because he bought Twitter, but they also thought that he was like a Russian spy. And now they're saying, as we heard this weekend, the questions coming from everybody on the left, elected offices on the left, what is Elon Musk getting out of this new deal from China? Well, they're just shifting their blame, shifting their evil associations, because really it wasn't that long ago they thought Elon Musk was a Russian spy.
Let's talk about Elon Musk and Vladimir Putin.
Is he on Team Russia or is he on Team USA?
His loyalties changed right around the time he started communicating with the Kremlin.
He is a pawn of Vladimir Putin.
Elon is without doubt the most important pro-Russian propagandist in American politics today. Elon has been pumping out this unbelievably rancid pro-Russian propaganda for the last 6 months, 9 months, 12 months without any kind of penalty.
Putin's type, Elon Musk.
Putin has a type. He likes narcissists and egomaniacs, and he's been using the richest man in the world to do his bidding.
I encourage, in fact, I urge advertisers like IBM, which has done so, to withdraw from X.
What does Congress want to do about it? We'll be taking action with colleagues this week to clean up his act.
The unfortunate demise of Twitter, of X, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
It's just straight on disinformation. I deleted it from my phone.
Oh, I wonder. That was Joe Scarborough, of course, from the now lower ranked MSNBC Morning Joe. I wonder if he's actually no longer using Twitter X. Now, you have to watch the language with the left because they always twist the language to try and confuse you or to tell you something that's not 100% true. One of the things you'll notice there is Scarborough says, I deleted it from my phone. So maybe it's still on your desktop or on your iPad. If you still have the account, you may have taken it off your phone, but I can go to Twitter X right now. Very interesting. That most of those clips were from a year to 2 years ago, before Elon Musk signed on with Trump and was all in for Donald Trump. And the left was mad at him because he bought Twitter and ended the blockade on conservative speech that the previous leaders of Twitter, Jack Dorsey and his lefty friends, those guys who had stopped any real conversation happening on Twitter. Well, Elon Musk eliminated the blocks. So the left went after him. And boy, did they ever. The guy spent his own money. And they were absolutely furious about Elon Musk. And they wanted to say how he had destroyed it, ruined Twitter.
Isn't the most responsible thing here to just shut the whole thing down?
Twitter is not a better business today. In fact, it's a worse business.
Twitter is really in an ever-quickening death spiral. They're going to have a hard time just keeping the lights on over at Twitter, given this mass exodus.
This is the end, or was the end, of Twitter.
Twitter may have 300+ million people, but those are 300+ million people are dissatisfied.
Are they? Are they Jim Cramer? Are they Oliver Darcy? That was 2 years ago when Musk bought Twitter and started changing it, meaning taking the shackles off Twitter. The left couldn't wait to tell you it was done, it was over, it was toast, stick a fork in it and turn it over. And we now know differently. We now know that Twitter's doing just fine. And in the previous clip, you heard Senator Richard Blumenthal, the guy who likes stolen valor, who likes to steal valor, telling companies like IBM not to advertise on Twitter. Well, that worked for a while. Musk is responding with great glee that companies like Disney and IBM, et cetera, are returning to advertising on Twitter. And if you don't think this is coordinated, if you don't think the attacks on Elon Musk and Twitter are coordinated, you just have to listen to the language they use when the news media attacks Elon Musk. They all like to use the same talking points.
Twitter X is just such a cesspool now.
Cesspool. It's a cesspool of ugly, vile stuff, particularly against women.
Twitter right now is a cesspool. I mean, you go on there, you send out a tweet, next thing you know, you have the far-right white nationalists attacking you.
Twitter is a cesspool, or X, I guess it's called now.
It is a cesspool. Everything that goes on, it's a circus cesspool.
Twitter is a cesspit. Pretty toxic stuff.
Cesspool, just bad information, lies, hate speech.
Elon Musk has turned X, formerly known as Twitter, into a cesspool of hate speech and extremist incitement.
Again, Dick Blumenthal, Stolen Valen Blumenthal, and they all use the same word. How bizarre is that? It's not bizarre at all, of course. That's irony coming out of my mouth because they all get the same memo every morning. If we're going to freeze Twitter, if we're going to shut down any interest in Twitter, we have to call it a cesspool. We have to smear it. We have to say it's anti-woman, it's anti-racist. Well, it's racist and not anti-diversity. So they go after it. But it's so coordinated. And Elon has shown them all, hasn't he? Just since Donald Trump's victory, his net worth has skyrocketed like it's one of his rocket ships. We'll keep monitoring that. But I found that interesting as I'm going through all of the attacks, now saying Elon Musk, well, now he's connected to China. Well, what happened to the Russian connection? What happened to that? It was Russia, Russia, Russia. Now it's going to be China, China, China. And it was chaos, chaos, chaos before that. We have a lot to keep our eyes on today. And, of course, you're welcome to be a part of it. 888-630-9625 is the number. David is in David, you're in California? Hello, David.
Yeah, how are you? It's Mike, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What part of California are you calling from?
Oh, I'm calling you from the very radical city of San Francisco, and I'm going to wish you a very radical happy holidays.
Happy Merry, in the words of the child correcting Jill Biden, Happy Christmas. So don't mind me.
There's that one too. There's that one too. But what was last night? The solstice. We finally made it. Now we can stop shivering.
Wasn't the solstice the 21st? But today, David, I can't believe you're not celebrating Festivus, the holiday for the rest of us.
Well, it's funny you mentioned, you remember how Christ is 3 days on the cross?
Yes.
Or excuse me, is it 3 days on the cross? Yeah, so if you look at the solstice, the Southern Cross is laying there in the sky, the stars, right? And it's down there, it levels out for like 3 days, and then it starts going up. So even though Saturday night was officially the middle of it, the 3 days, we're just ending the solstice. So it's like 3 days. So, you get into your Festivus, there's New Year's, there's all kinds of holidays. And if you want to say, well, happy Christmas, happy Thanksgiving, happy Kwanzaa, happy, all of these, it's happy holidays. Get over it, dude. But what I was more interested in is duty to care. And is Donald Trump going to provide us duty to care? Or is he going to get out and you heard with Elon's budget cuts, he cut, $200 million from child cancer research?
Hold on one second, David. David, hang on one second. And I have to give credit to CNN on this one, because the story about the child, it was the cancer research. Is that the one you're talking about? The cancer research program that was allegedly cut from the spending bill, the 1,557-page bill? That's the one you're talking about?
You ever heard of taxation with representation?
No, David, it's a simple question, yes or no. Is that the program you're talking about? Is that the David, can we have an honest conversation? You mentioned that Elon Musk and his efforts and Donald Trump's efforts were cutting out this program for children, and there was a massive program for children and cancer. Is that the program you're talking about?
Yeah, among others.
Okay. Well, let's just take that one, because CNN even brought this up yesterday. If you were watching Dana Bash, that program back in, I think, March of this year, that bill went through the House. It was sent to the Senate in a standalone bill to fund that cancer research, that health care for children, and Chuck Schumer sat on it and wouldn't allow a vote on it. So Republicans pushed this forward in a standalone bill, David, and the Democrats sat on it until they could use it in some sort of way to demonize Republicans. So, David, you're not being an honest broker here when you try and bring this up. That you can look that up, but I'm sorry. Merry Christmas is what I'm going to say, and I'm not going to get over it. And I thank you for your call. I won't have a dialogue with dishonesty. Just my opinion. Thank you. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. And there is a cup of truth on the counter. Please feel free to pick it up and take a big sip from it. Just saying. I really did witness Dana Bash do that this weekend. Dana Bash actually corrected someone about that topic, about the funding for children, especially children with cancer, and how horrific it was that the Democrats sat on that bill for months and months and months. Now, it did go through on its own, I guess, late Friday night, but it should have been highlighted by the mainstream media sooner. They chose to let it be covered up, to obfuscate. All right, I'm stepping aside, taking a break. I got a crazy story that I need to talk about, get your opinion on it. It is the Chris Plant Show. Mike Opelka in for my friend Chris Plant. And wishing you, as always, a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Hello. How are you? Hi. Happy holidays. Hi. Happy Christmas. Yes.
It is the Chris Plant Show with Mike Opelka sitting in for Chris Plant. This week, next week, God willing, we'll get to everything. My goodness, there was just a beautiful, beautiful buffet of quotes from Donald Trump from his speech yesterday at Turning Point, and we'll get to those next hour. I promise you we'll lay them all out. Some great stuff from Tom Homan and Matt Gaetz and others. If we have the time, we'll get to them all. I was speaking with that gentleman from California who called to try and, I guess, play gotcha and ask the gotcha questions, and he wasn't being honest. And I talk about the way the left side of the mainstream media twists the truth. And I give you another example. In New York City over the weekend, there was an absolutely horrific situation where a person who I believe is in this country illegally, another criminal migrant in the country illegally, set a woman on fire who was sleeping inside a subway car, probably because it's cold in New York and she was in distress. But this person set a woman on fire. It ultimately killed her. It was just a terrible murder. He watched her, too. He sat there and watched her burn. Just awful stuff. But what did the New York Daily News write for their headline on social media? And again, this shows you where the left is when they try and interpret reality and effectively twist reality. The headline covering the story of this murder by fire of a woman who was killed by an illegal immigrant. The headline reads, "Woman dies after she catches fire in Brooklyn subway car. NYPD suspects homicide." Woman dies after she catches fire. She just spontaneously combusted because we know New York is just such a flammable area. That's a horrific abuse of your power as a journalist when you put something like that in a headline. Woman dies after she catches fire. I'm sure the same was done with the story of the Christmas market in Germany. Car drives through crowd. No, the murderer drove the car through the crowd. And in this case, on the subway, an illegal killed someone by setting them on fire. I know I promised you a crazy story that I wanted to share with you. The best job you can get if you're looking for a job next year and you don't have a job and you want something fun, the Wienermobile is looking for new drivers. I kid you not. Yes, the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile is looking for new drivers. I've been fortunate enough to sit inside a Wienermobile. It is an iconic piece of Americana. It also is powered by a 10-cylinder General Motors engine. So if you've got a young one in your life who's just out of college and wandering and trying to find their mission, maybe they should visit the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile website and fill out an application. You're not going to get rich, but you get a good living, and you'll see a lot of the country from behind the wheel of a giant Wienermobile. Merry Christmas. First hour in the can. It's Mike Opelka in for Chris Plant on The Chris Plant Show.